Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the lives of two, well, absolute titans of Irish culture, Brendan Behan and Shane MacGowan. Now, they're separated by a generation, but united by this fierce, almost undeniable spirit, right? Both celebrated, both pretty controversial, too.
Absolutely. Larger-than-life figures, definitely.
So today, we're really getting into the worlds of Behan the playwright, the rebel, and MacGowan, the punk poet, the voice of the Pogues.
Two incredible storytellers.
And for this deep dive, we've pulled together quite a bit. For Behan, we're looking at his personal letters, his amazing memoir, Borstal Boy, some really interesting analyses of his prison humor and in key bits of his life story.
And for MacGowan.
For MacGowan, we're digging into his music, obviously some specific songs like A Pair of Brown Eyes, The Old Main Drag, and also looking at recent obituaries and profiles that came out.
Right, trying to capture his essence.
Exactly. So our mission really is to unpack their lives, their art, which was often incredibly raw, and the surprising ways their paths, their themes kind of converged, even with those decades between them. We want you to come away with those aha moments, feeling truly well-informed.
Sounds like a great plan. Where should we start?
Okay, let's kick off with their early lives. Both steeped in Irish identity, sure, but shaped by, well, pretty different experiences with Britain, actually.
Yeah, that's a good place to begin.
Yeah.
Let's start with Brendan Behan. He was born in 1923 into a family in Dublin that was deeply Republican. Politics was baked in from the start.
Right, and his involvement with the IRA, it started young, didn't it?
Incredibly young and intensely so. He was arrested when he was just 16 in Liverpool for having bomb-making materials, basically, illegal activity.
16, wow.
And that led to a 3-year sentence in a Borstal, which was, British reform institution for young offenders.
And that experience became Borstal Boy.
It became the absolute bedrock of Borstal Boy, yeah. That whole period defined so much for him.
And you get that sense from the book, don't you? Not just the harshness, but his way of seeing things, that dark humor even then.
Definitely. Like that detail about the news of the world.
Oh, yeah. Tell us that.
Well, he mentions how it had been banned back in Ireland since he was about 4. So the first time he actually reads it is, ironically, inside a British prison.
That's just perfectly Behan, isn't it? Finding the absurdity in it all.
Exactly. But okay, let's shift gears. Shane MacGowan, born much later, 1957. His early path looks quite different on the surface.
Right. Born in Kent, England, but with strong Irish roots.
Very strong. He spent his very early childhood in Tipperary, Ireland, really immersed in that rural culture before the family moved back to England when he was about 6.
And his rebellion wasn't political in the same way as Behan's, was it?
No, not in the same direct IRA-linked way. His manifested, maybe more personally, against the system in a different sense. He got expelled from Westminster School, a very prestigious place for drug offenses. And then, between 17 and 18, this is quite significant, he spent 6 months in psychiatric care. Bethlehem Royal Hospital.
Whoa.
Yeah, battling drug and alcohol abuse, anxiety, depression, really serious struggles early on.
So Behan's confrontation was with the state, the legal system. MacGowan's was more internal and against social norms, leading to institutional care of a different kind.
You could put it like that, yeah. 2 different kinds of confinement, perhaps.
Yeah.
And MacGowan, he channeled that sort of raw energy into the London punk scene that was exploding then.
Ah, right, under the name Shane O'Hooligan.
That was his early alias, yeah. And he started a band called the Nipple Erectors.
Subtle.
Not exactly, but it shows that anti-establishment, provocative streak was there from the start, finding an outlet in punk.
So what this means for you, listening, is we've got these 2 figures, different times, different specific issues, politics for one, personal demons and addiction for the other, but these similar early clashes with authority, whether it's the police or psychiatric hospitals, and this fierce, sometimes self-destructive energy.
And I think the fascinating thing is that common thread of rebellion. It wasn't just, political placard waving for Behan, though it was that too. It was deeper. And for MacGowan, it was personal, cultural. But both came out of these intense, formative experiences that just poured fuel on their creative fires later on.
Yeah, you can absolutely see how those fires forged the artists they became.
Definitely. Those early battles weren't just obstacles. They were like the raw material.
Okay, let's move on to their art itself. Both masters of words, Behan and MacGowan, but in really different arenas. Behan with his plays and prose, MacGowan with his songs. Let's dive into Behan's writing first, his voice.
Right. Well, Behan was prolific. He wrote these really celebrated plays, The Queer Fellow, which is set in Mountjoy Prison, on the eve of an execution, and The Hostage. The Hostage got huge acclaim internationally, won an Obie Award in New York in '59.
So major success on stage.
Major success. And of course, his autobiographical writing, Borstal Boy being the most famous. But what's interesting looking at his letters is a couple of things. He was really meticulous about dates. Yeah, unlike, say, Oscar Wilde or Yeats, who could be a bit vague. Behan was specific. And his signatures varied a lot. BFB, sometimes Jubel, little personal touches.
Suggests a kind of, I don't know, carefulness behind the boisterous image?
Maybe, yeah. And he was also quite open about needing help sometimes. He'd ask editors to fix his punctuation and spelling.
Really?
Yeah, he admitted it, quite frankly.
Sure.
And most of his letters were actually typed, unless he couldn't get to a typewriter. So there's a practical side there, too.
That's fascinating. But the humor, especially the prison humor, is just extraordinary. How did that work for him as a writer, dealing with such dark subject matter? Give us an example.
Well, it was partly coping, right? But also a way to cut through the bleakness. He'd write about the anxiety of using the loo with the guards watching through the spy hole. Yes. Finding the ridiculous in that total lack of privacy.
Right. Humanizing the experience almost.
Exactly. Or that self-deprecating bit about thinking about committing a mortal sin, meaning, masturbation, but realizing he was actually too drunk to manage it. It's dark, but it's funny. And it reveals so much. He famously said something like, I have never been able to talk about things that mean a deal to me. So maybe the humor was a shield, a way to get at truth indirectly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Even the title, Borstal Boy, he apparently considered calling it This Young Neck, which is a line from an old Irish song, Prisoner of Clonmel.
Ah, connecting it back to tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shows how deep that folk culture ran in him, even when writing about this very modern, brutal experience.
Such a powerful mix. Okay, what about MacGowan? He becomes this bard of the Irish diaspora. How did his songs achieve that kind of raw truth-telling?
Well, MacGowan, through the Pogues, and let's not forget the band's original name, Pogue Mahone, Kiss My Arse in Irish Gaelic, talk about setting out your stall.
Right, anti-establishment from the word go.
Totally. They revolutionized Irish music by smashing punk energy into traditional tunes. But it was Shane's lyrics that really earned him that bard title. His songs are these incredibly vivid, often really gritty, portraits of the Irish immigrant life.
The good and the bad.
Oh, definitely the bad, too. The longing, the drinking, the fighting, the working, the dreaming.
Yeah.
It's all in there. Unflinching is the word people often use.
Let's talk about A Pair of Brown Eyes. Such a haunting song. And people have read so much into it, haven't they?
They really have. It's got this enigmatic quality. Reviewers suggested it was about a drunken old soldier remembering the war and a lost love, or maybe a young guy reeling from his own breakup, or even seeing the eyes of an enemy soldier. All sorts of interpretations.
Which speaks to the power of the songwriting, I guess.
It does. But MacGowan himself, in an interview, I think it was around 2012, he gave a much more down-to-earth explanation.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He basically said, it's about a guy who's pissed off because he's broken up with his girlfriend. Simple as that. Set in an Irish pub in Camden, London, and there's this older fella whinging away in the corner. He even said it was kind of autobiographical.
Huh. So grounded in a very real, mundane moment of sadness, but written in a way that opens it up to much bigger feelings.
Precisely. That's the craft, isn't it? Taking that specific personal feeling and making it resonate universally. It's about loss, regret, listening to someone else's sorrow while drowning your own.
And that unflinching honesty. We see it again in the Old Main Drag, right? That's a tough listen.
It really is. It paints this absolutely brutal picture of a young runaway's life, prostitution, drug abuse, police violence, all happening around Piccadilly Circus in London. But there's this strange, almost roomy nostalgia mixed in, which makes it even more disturbing and powerful.
No sugarcoating there.
None at all. It's giving voice to the utterly marginalized, showing the grim reality beneath the bright lights.
So the common thread here, Behan's prose, MacGowan's lyrics, is this raw honesty, a refusal to look away from the difficult stuff.
Absolutely. Connecting it back, neither of them shied away from the grit, did they? Prison walls, harsh city streets, broken hearts, political failures. They took all that struggle, personal and collective, and turned it into art that just hits you with its authenticity. No filter.
Yeah, you feel like you're getting the unvarnished truth, for better or worse. Which brings us nicely to the next point, their relationship with Irish identity. Both deeply Irish, yet often critical, sometimes seen as outsiders.
Yeah, Behan certainly was complex in that regard. He was absolutely committed to a united Ireland, a 32-county republic, totally free from British rule. And he was a staunch socialist, looked up to figures like James Connolly and James Larkin, the big Irish labor leaders.
So his nationalism was tied to socialism.
Very much so. He famously defended the playwright Sean O'Casey, who was controversial at the time, calling him a great Irishman, a socialist, and Irish speaker. He also made this really interesting point about the term Anglo-Irishman.
What was that?
He argued it wasn't really a racial thing, but a class distinction. About power in economics, not just heritage, challenging the usual way people thought about it.
That's insightful, cutting through the usual labels.
And it wasn't just about ideology. He wrote about being proud of actual improvements in Dublin post-independence, like new housing, slum clearance, tangible benefits for ordinary working people.
Right, connecting the political ideals to real life.
Exactly.
And MacGowan, he was London Irish, grew up mostly in England, but still felt completely Irish.
Yeah, absolutely. He talked about feeling guilty, actually, for not joining the IRA, which is a pretty intense thing to say, right? It shows how deep that identity, those political currents, ran in him. Even though his path was different, his rebellion became cultural, musical.
And here's a direct link, something listeners might know. The Pogues covered Behan's song The Old Triangle, didn't they?
They did indeed, from Behan's play The Quare Fellow.
That feels like such a clear nod, a passing of the torch almost.
It really is.
Oh.
It highlights that shared lineage, that respect within Irish artistic tradition, connecting the writer-rebel with the punk poet, a powerful link across the generations.
And both used their art for social critique too, right? Not just personal expression.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Behan, in his letters, he didn't pull punches. He slammed the Irish education system. He defended guys involved in an IRA raid, consistently questioning authority. And his comments on the famine were incredibly strong.
What did he say about the famine?
He called English policy during the famine a primitive attempt at a final solution, and famously stated, God sent the potato blight, but England made the famine. Direct. Damning.
Wow. That's powerful. And MacGowan's critique may be less overtly political in the same way, but still there.
Absolutely. It was inherent in the punk ethos, in the band's name, like we said. And in the lyrics depicting the lives of the marginalized, the emigrants, the addicts, the prostitutes, in songs like The Old Main Drag or Thousands Are Sailing, it's a critique of the society that creates those margins.
So both holding up a mirror often to uncomfortable realities.
Exactly. And, both also had these very public personas that sometimes got tangled up with their art, maybe even overshadowed it at times.
Yeah, Behan's drinking was legendary, constantly reported. And MacGowan was known for his, well, titanically destructive personality, as one obituary put it.
Right. The chaos was part of public image for both. Yet, despite all that, their artistic achievements were undeniable. MacGowan got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the President of Ireland. Bob Dylan called him one of his favorite artists.
High praise indeed.
Huge praise. It shows the work transcended the personal turmoil, at least in terms of recognition.
But it does raise that question, doesn't it? How do we balance the genius of the art with the sometimes messy, destructive lives of the artists? Does the public persona help or hinder how we see the work now?
That's the perennial question with figures like these, isn't it? I think maybe you can't entirely separate them. For Behan and MacGowan, their lives were their material. The intensity, the struggle, the defiance, the darkness, the humor, it all fed directly into the authenticity of the work.
So the chaos wasn't just a sideshow, it was part of the source.
In a way, yes. It proved they weren't just observing struggle, they were living it deeply. It gave their words that raw, undeniable power. Their art is the testament, even if their lives sometimes serve as a warning.
So for you listening, think about this. How does that willingness to expose the raw truths, the political anger, the personal pain, how does that shape their legacy? And what does it tell us about the Irish experience itself, seen through their eyes, the eyes of insiders who are also fierce critics?
It definitely complicates the picture, doesn't it? Moves it beyond simple stereotypes. It shows the Irish experience is something multifaceted, full of pride, yes, but also pain, rebellion, contradiction, and enduring struggles, both internal and external. Their honesty demands that kind of nuanced view.
So there you have it, Brendan Behan and Shane MacGowan. Two absolute forces of nature, separated by time but linked by that fierce Irish spirit, that commitment to telling it like it is, however rough, and this incredible gift for capturing the human condition in words.
Yeah, despite all the struggles, the chaos, the pain, that was clearly there in both their lives, the work just endures, doesn't it? It speaks about love, loss, fighting back, trying to figure out who you are. Things we all grapple with, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with a tear, but always, always honest.
So maybe think about what other connections you might draw between these two amazing artists. What other stories are hidden in their lines, waiting to be heard? What does it really mean to be well-informed by the kind of raw, unfiltered experience they shared? Keep digging into those stories. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.